right, I'm ready whenever you are.
No problem. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Florida Action Podcast. I'm here with Sierra and David, and we are here to talk about CSC, which apparently I know nothing about after the research I've done. So I'm really excited to have you guys here. I'm really excited to shed light on this. Is there anything you wanted to say, Sierra, before we get into the questions?
No, not too much. I think I'm going to kick it back to the expert here on CSC, and we'll talk to David and kind of ask him to give us an explanation as to what is the CSC tax really all about?
Yeah, tell us layman's what CSC is all about.
Well, let me give you a little bit of background. The Children's Services Council had a planning committee put together. The county had them put together a planning committee and gave a budget of $75,000 to bring in some professionals to, I guess, they were supposed to determine if we needed a Children's Services Council. The planning committee was put together specifically by the PAC, which is Our Kids First, which is run by John Moyle. And I'll give you a little bit more background on him and his relationship in just a moment. But the members were handpicked by him. A gentleman, a local business owner, brought me to Judge Sorstrom, who was the chair of the committee, and asked to bring me in. And I sit on the board for the Network of Entrepreneurs and Business Advocates, NEBA, and I was asked to be included as a representative of NEBA. I'm not speaking for NEBA today, but I was put on the board or the planning committee for that purpose. And I did get voted on. I started maybe about 2 to 3 months late, but I was there the month before I was elected to be on the committee. No one else was elected. I think everybody else was just simply appointed. Once I got appointed, that was the end. They said no more people coming on the committee, despite what some people may say, such as Jenny Daly, that it was open to the public. It was not. Again, and we have an email from John Moyle to the city or the county commissioners, specifically listing the individuals by name.
And didn't the judge make them take you, so that they would be less echo chambery?
Well, kind of. That's what the idea was. I think everybody that was on that committee had preconceived notions of wanting to make the Children's Services Council happen.
Right.
Well, there were several things that occurred while I was on the committee, one of which was a nepotism clause that I kept trying to ask them to put together. And essentially the nepotism clause, which they pretty much ignored. The nepotism clause was something to the effect of that the executive director of the Children's Services Council, assuming that it was going to be created, was not allowed to be a relation to any locally elected official or any senior employee of county government, city government, or the school board. So the idea was, and the reason for that is because when this was started off as a job for, at least we'll say it was rumored to be started off as a job for Jessica Minor. And I don't know if you recognize that last name, but Rick Minor is going to be the chair of I believe it's the county commission.
Oh, man.
Next year.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But again, that was conjecture, and I don't even know if today, because of all the stuff, if she would even accept the position. I'm sure she wants it, but and there's probably a lot of reasons to want it, but I don't think that she is. I don't think she would accept it. But what I was trying to do was I was trying to avoid that specific type of thing.
They ruled
they like voted against you on that?
Yes, I didn't express exactly why I wanted that nepotism. They felt like the state's nepotism clause was good enough, and we've had enough corruption in our local government for
Right.
many years, and there's been nepotism in the local government, and so I was pretty much the lone naysayer in there.
Mm.
So one of the other things that I had brought, I had received uh, I had received a document from Leon County. Okay, so from county government uh, at the beginning, or actually prior to my initial engagement on the council and or the committee, and in that document, it had listed, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 organizations here in Leon County that receive money from the Children's Services Council, and to the tune of about $250 million a year.
Wow.
Well, I brought that to the committee, and John Daly specifically fought me on that and said that it was not accurate information. And it's like, okay, if I'm not getting accurate information from the government, what makes you think giving the government more money is going to make anything more accurate? As it turns out, county government and city government have no idea how many agencies are out there to serve children right now. And Don't get me wrong, I'm not against children. I won't go into real detail here, but I have let's just say I have a very close relation to early childhood education in the lower income range.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that then.
Yeah. I just don't want to get anybody tangled up with, let's say, Rocky. So anyway, so they basically told me the document was it was gibberish, and no factual information. So myself and a committee got together and we started researching the actual inventory here in Leon County. And as it turns out, the inventory is more like 150 organizations that provide services to children here in Leon County. And you can imagine that there's got to be some overlap. This has taken 18 months just to get to where we are so far. And we have found, and we can document what we have found by either public information requests, we can show those, emails from officials from the organizations with whom we spoke, and it's on record from the committee meetings when some of these organizations came up and spoke. So we have, nobody else, but we have probably the most comprehensive inventory here in Leon County. And I don't want, understand that we're all volunteers, and I don't want to diminish the work that we did, but let me give you the magnitude of what we have so far.
Please do.
And we're still working on it. Of the 150, there are roughly 81 organizations for whom we do not yet have their budget for various reasons. So we've got $200 million, and there's another 80 organizations that we do not have their budget for yet. We estimate there's probably another $100 million a year that go into children's services here in Leon County. We can't prove it yet, but we're still working on it. It's a work in progress.
That's a great thing for the children, isn't it?
What's that?
Having all of that money and all these groups just paying attention to the limited amount of children that are actually in the county?
Well, this is what's really disturbing to us is that we in Leon County, even if it were just the $200 million that we can prove right this minute, even if it were just $200 million, that's a lot of money that goes towards various children's services here in Leon County. That does not include the $500 million a year that goes to Leon County schools. I need you to understand that. Okay?
That was the difference earlier that we were talking about.
So when you start looking at that, plus the services that go to children that need additional services, you start looking at close to $1 billion a year here in Leon County. But even the $200 million is more than the budgets for the police department, sheriff's department, and the communication center.
Agreed.
This is a lot of money. And I'm not saying that it is a bad thing, but I'm going to step out on a limb, and I'm going to say out of these 60 plus that we found budgets on, there's got to be some overlap. There has to be. I mean, how can you have that many organizations providing services to children? How many different services do children need to have?
Exactly.
And so, I don't know. They need to be educated. They need to be fed. They need to be housed. They need to have their health care taken care of if they're low income and can't afford their health care. Health care would be mental, physical, dental, optical, all of these things. And you start running into, okay, how much stuff do we actually need?
Right.
So one of the things that stuck out to me as well, and I think this is probably one of Sierra's favorite people, is Kelly Oddie, who was the executive director for Pay Center for Girls. So when she did her presentation, of course, I asked her what her budget was here. And initially I was told you can just pull up the 990 online. I think it's a 990, the nonprofit tax return. Well, that's a flat out lie. And that leads to another issue. Pay Center for Girls is a state-run organization. They have one tax return for the entire state. It doesn't say how much is spent in Leon County or how much is spent in Wakulla County. It says how much is spent in the state of Florida. And that was one of the areas that caused us as much difficulty as it did, because we have so many areas that are state, or so many organizations that are state organization, or of the Big Bend, or of North Florida, or of the Panhandle, trying to narrow down, okay, what is going into Leon County right now. So that's additional information. Just so you know, Pay Center for Girls spends about $24,000 a year per girl.
So what I hear you saying is that the money's there, but perhaps it's not necessarily being spent right or allocated right, because I hear, I know that with like state funding, that happens with the schools too. Like the school board gets state funding and then they get county funding, but the county superintendent gets to decide what he does with those pots of money. So if there are problems in our schools and things not being fixed in our schools, it's because the school board and the superintendent has decided not to spend money where it should be spent and to spend it in other ways. So I guess what I'm saying is, because the argument for this children's council is like, well, if we don't do this, how are the children going to get shoes? And it's like, and my problem with that is and why I'm voting no, is that I don't think we need to put more money, because like you said, there's enough. We need to be more creative and think about and better manage the money that exists.
Yes. But
I,
what is CSC's goal? What is its mission? I think that's what we're missing from the conversation before we move forward.
So I don't remember exactly what the committee outlined, but there were three things. And one, essentially what they were trying to, what they're saying is healthy children and families. Yeah, and I don't have this exactly, but it is actually very, very frilly. I think they mentioned third grade reading at level, which was another idea. And this is from the committee, not from the Children's Services Council.
Okay.
And the council doesn't have to do a single thing that the committee says. Not a single thing. What the committee says is recommendations, and the Children's Services Council, that's the big elephant in the room, or the red elephant in the room, I guess is what you say, is that the Children's Services Council can do anything they want to do, and they're not accountable to the taxpayers because 6 of the 10 people on the CSC board are non-elected. They're appointed to the board. There's 4 elected officials that go onto the board. The superintendent of schools, a school board member, a county commissioner, and a county judge.
even then, doesn't mean we're gonna like the people who are, the elected officials sitting on there. Like, I would definitely have a problem with Rocky Hanna being the one managing money.
He would be there.
Yeah,
he would be there.
If he wins again, he would be there, and that's very problematic for me.
But here's something that's even worse, and I'm going to try to explain it. I've got it in my head, and I'm trying to avoid using names. But I've spoken to an elected official that's running for re-election, and that elected official said that they would be voting for the Children's Services Council if somebody asked them. They would be voting for it, but they would be holding their nose while they did it. So they don't believe in the Children's Services Council. The reason being is it would be political suicide. Okay, so now, understanding that, let's say you have Rocky Hanna on the board, and the board wants to do something, and Rocky Hanna is up for re-election, and what the board wants to do is very much against what the populace would want the board to do. Rocky could say, okay, I'm up for re-election. I'm going to vote no. But there's 9 other votes, 6 of which we can't control, that are voting yes. So every single time the elected officials can be outvoted. So them being on the board is a token.
Right.
So what you've got is we're being taxed, and then this board is not being accountable to the citizens.
Right.
It's the epitome of taxation without representation.
Yeah.
It is the epitome of that.
But my question is, the taxes come into the CSC, but where does that money go? I mean, where is it supposed to go? Is this just a slush fund? Because like you said, 150 other people are doing childcare services. Does the CSC distribute that money among those 150 organizations, or is it a new independent sort of bigger organization, government run?
Theoretically, but like it's probably just gonna go to like whatever Ginny Daly's book club wants, like it's.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question summarily, and then I'll give you some detail on that when you mentioned Ginny Daly. So the this is a boondoggle, I'm telling you right now. So and of course Ginny Daly is the wife of the mayor,
right,
who brought this up in the first place. Okay, so anyway, to answer your question, one of the things that they wanted to put money towards, or the committee was hoping that the board would put money towards, was making more of our daycares gold accredited.
Oh.
So the state has certain guidelines for daycares, for licensing a daycares. And we have a very low number of gold accredited daycares here in Tallahassee or Leon County. So one of the things they want to do is put more money into that. So the thought process would be that they're going to put some money into either helping these daycares achieve these accreditations, or supplement the additional cost per child in these daycares, so these daycares can afford to become have this additional accreditation. The state says, based on your family income and your number of children and that sort of thing, the state governs how much money can be paid to the daycare from the state in order to be able to send your children to daycare. That's essentially what it is, but we kind of call it maybe VPK, could be, or after school programs. So anyway, not everybody gets something. Okay, this doesn't all go to poor children, to low income. This is for everybody. But what happens is that if you're in business with a daycare, if you're in business for yourself and you have a daycare or a VPK or whatever the case is, it's going to cost you more money to have higher accreditation. The ABC daycare is not going to be able to is going to be able to pay their employees and operate under their current program, with kids coming in, with some of these low income kids coming in, frankly. But if you have something like, and I don't mean to put them out there, but just to give you an idea, like a Scottsdale Academy, where they actually have teachers and they educate the kids. Well, the parents that are putting their kids there have to pay more out of their pocket, because they're putting their kids into a position where they're able to get higher education. They're probably a gold accredited daycare VPK type of a thing.
Yeah,
so,
it's like $100 a month, maybe I think like 900 actually. I looked into it once. It's stupid expensive.
Yeah. But that goes for
Whatever
more resources. It goes for better teachers, higher salaries, better administrators, better locations, and all of that stuff.
It's the same thing as sending your kid to Leon High School or Maclay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not everybody can send their kids to Maclay.
Right.
Everybody can send their kid to Leon High School.
Right.
Doesn't cost them anything. And it's not to put down Leon High School at all, but it's the same type of thing. Maclay is a higher accredited, or has more ability and or skills to be able to teach children college prep better than Leon. That's what you're paying for.
Or private schools for wealthy parents to send their wealthy toddlers.
But that's fine. The idea is supposedly the idea would be to send these lower income kids to the Scottsdale academies and that sort of thing, and supplement the cost of that. Well, that's all fine and good, but Mimi Graham, who was on the committee, when I asked specifically, and this, I'm never politically correct, I said, I'm not understanding who this is for. Is this for poor children? Is this for Black children? And and there was a reason specifically I said that. And she said, no, it's for all the children. Well, all the children don't need this.
That's right.
The children that are going to Maclay don't need this. The ones that are going to North Florida Christian, they don't need this. The ones that are going to any of the private schools don't need this. So it's not for all the children. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's kind of where we are now. Now, you mentioned Jessica Minor.
Hmm.
So one of the things that she said on one of the forums that I watched,
Jenny Daly. You said
Jenny
Jessica.
Daly, sorry. Yeah,
Jenny
Jenny Daly, not Jessica Minor. Sorry about that. On one of the forums, she mentioned that the county funds $1.7 million into children's services every year. Well, you know what? That's correct. That's probably pretty accurate. So $8 million more is going to be a huge hit. It's going to be a huge contribution into this. It
Mm-hmm.
would be, except for the state and federal funding and private funding. That's the other $198 million a year already.
Mm-hmm.
This will not be a huge hit in any way, shape, or form. But it will probably cost jobs. It may cost people the ability to pay their mortgage. It could very easily cost people to have additional food insecurity.
Because it's like a $50 a month increase, is it not? Or
It's not per month. And it's not a $50 anything increase. The average homestead in Tallahassee, this is homes, not businesses. Businesses is totally different, okay? And I'll explain that in a minute. The average home in Tallahassee is worth about $200,000.
Hmm.
After you remove the deduction, the homestead exemptions, you know, and that sort of thing, you're ending up with roughly $75 to $80 a year per home on average for the average home.
Okay.
But there's people that live in Summerbrook that literally have no furniture in their home. There's people that live in some pretty nice houses that don't have any furniture because they're house poor.
Mm.
There's people that live in lower income neighborhoods that an extra $50 a year or an extra $75 a year means that the kids may not be able to get breakfast for a week or something like that. You know,
That's right.
It's taking away from the people who would be most vulnerable.
Right.
In that instance. And you know, it's not that much money, but you know what? That money belongs to them. It belongs to us. Those that are paying the taxes, that money belongs to us. And this is a confiscation of money from our taxes.
Right.
And or money that we have earned. And the other thing that people don't seem to understand is we've already got a tax increase. By law, it's considered a tax increase because our property values have gone up. They didn't increase the millage, but the property values have gone up. The tax increase is going to be $11 million. The school board's going to get $3 million of that. All right. So you add the Children's Services Council, and now we're up to $19 million, almost $20 million that our taxes are going up. This is just an additional cost to the homeowners and the commercial property owners.
Right. In the middle of a pandemic.
In the middle of a pandemic, when people have already lost their jobs and you know, incomes are not what they were before, and yeah, it's certainly the wrong time. But here's the thing, and I harp on this a lot. Other than understanding the taxation without representation, that seems to be the biggest thorn in most people's side is not being represented on the CSC board. But no one has looked at the counties in the state of Florida that are doing well based on the Child Well-Being Index. And I don't know if you've heard of that before, but I've got it right here, the 2019 Child Well-Being Index, Florida Child Well-Being Index. Now this is produced by Florida Kids Count. and the University of South Florida. So this is not a David Kirk document. This is from independent sources that are looking for assisting children. Now, we rank 16th on this chart, on this index.
All right.
16th is not that great, right? But we rank higher than 7 of the 9 counties that have children's services councils already. One of which, which is Pinellas County, has been around for 74 years. 74 years, and they can't get past us. Can't get past 16th.
With a council.
With the council. That's correct. That's correct. And not only that, but Pinellas County spends 4 times the amount per child than what we would be spending if we had a children's services council. And I've lived in Pinellas County, and I don't see anything about Pinellas County from when I lived there that makes them anywhere better and rank them any higher, which is they're at 29 actually on this scale. But when you're looking to improve, when you're wanting to do something better, right? There's that old analogy: if you want to be rich, do what rich people do, right? Have you heard that before?
Yep.
Okay. Why would you do what poor people do?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the analogy that I give with this Children's Services Council.
There's 15 better examples of how to do it on that list.
There's 15 better examples, 2 of which have Children's Services Council, but there's one that kind of sticks out to me that's at number 7, that's at higher than every single county with a Children's Services Council. And they're right next door to us. Wakulla County ranks number 7.
All right.
Why are we not going to Wakulla County and saying, okay, you rank 9 spots above us on the Child Wellbeing Index, on the Florida Child Wellbeing Index. Let's research what you're doing, because you're rich people.
Yeah.
We want to be rich.
Yep.
We want to do what you're doing in order to emulate what you're doing, not emulating what the Children's Services Councils are doing. And they, frankly, they're failures.
Right. Yeah.
And this is Wakulla's not even the top 5. They're number 7, but we could go to the top 5. St. Johns County, Santa Rosa County, Okaloosa County, the top 3 right there. What are you guys doing that we're not doing? Where can we improve to be like you, not like a Children's Services Council county that's relying on a boondoggle and a government overreach, frankly.
A good amount of money that what they're doing is that they have less political corruption and just nepotism in their local governments, because I think we have a lot of that in Tallahassee. And my thing overall, I guess, with the CSC is that, like, why are we punishing the taxpayer for your mess ups? Like, I know we may not like completely agree on this, David, but like in my opinion, the government's job is to like take care of the populace. And I think that like if I have to pay taxes, I'd like to figure out and like decide how my taxes are spent. And like I'd like to dictate that. And they're not doing a good job with the taxes I already give them. And I'm not going to give them more. I don't want to, because they need to be doing better in Leon County Commission and the City Commission and the governmental agencies that we already have, school board. Those all should do better before we invest more taxpayer money because of their mistakes. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's just my take.
I do somewhat, but one thing that's very important to understand, and my background is in economics. I have a degree in economics, and one thing that's important to understand is when you're taxing real estate because the property value goes up, that doesn't mean your income went up.
That's right.
It means your property value went up. So you're having to pay more because your property is more valuable. You may not be able to afford to pay any additional money because your income did not go up.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing is they're saying, well, because your property value is higher, we should be able to take more of your treasure. And the problem is many of us don't have the ability to replenish that treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what's happening. One of the things that I had that we looked up and we found out is that on the third grade reading level, okay, Leon County ranks above average,
Nice.
not great, but certainly above average in the state of Florida. There's 74 districts, despite the fact there's only 67 counties. Okay. 74 districts, and you're getting ready to understand why. 3 of the 74 districts that rank 1, 2, and 3 are, 3 of them that rank 1, 2, and 4 are lab schools. Do you know what a lab school is?
I do not.
Okay. Florida State University School is a lab school. They are state university schools that are elementary, middle school, and high school.
Okay.
They're developmental research schools, research being the key, developmental being the key word. So 3 of the top 4 are lab schools. PK Young is one at University of Florida. Florida High in Tallahassee is one, also known as FSUS. I happen to be an alumnus from Florida High. And they rank at the top. Actually, the one that ranks at the top is right here in Tallahassee.
I'm so proud of Tallahassee.
Florida High ranks at the top. Now, why isn't Rocky and the school board going to Florida High and saying, how are you getting third grade reading scores so high and we're not? Let's do what rich people do. Let's not do what poor people do if we want to be rich.
Or let's do what smart people do.
If you want to be smart, that's even a better analogy. If you want to be smart, do what smart people do, not what dumb people do. Right?
That's right.
Right. So lab schools, what they do, just to give you a quick background on that, what they do is they develop and research, developmental research school. They develop, along with the universities that they are part of, better ways of educating children, school-age children. That's what they do. The kids that go to Florida High are guinea pigs. They're literally guinea pigs because they spend a significant amount of their time not learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic. They spend a significant amount of time testing based on the ways that they have been taught reading, writing, and arithmetic. I mean, we used to test constantly to see where we were, how we were doing, how the education system, we were learning differently than the county schools were.
Sounds scientific, though. I kind of like it.
They were put in place in order to be able to improve education for the remainder of the state. Let's use it.
Right.
Let's use the information that they have.
Like if we were we'd have smaller class sizes. We would have like schools that were funded with equity. You know, we would have like, you know, doesn't the school, like, they purposely make sure their classrooms are like diverse, and they practice inclusion of like children with disabilities, and like all kinds of children feel included and believed in to a certain extent, which is like something I think that is missing in many public schools. Because
so when I was there, and I think it's still similar, but when I was there, Florida High matched the diversity of Leon County.
Nice.
It wasn't that you scored well on a test to get in.
Yeah.
They certainly wanted to get people in that they felt, you know, that could be educated, but they needed a certain number of children. They needed a certain number of Asian children from single parent homes making $100,000 a year. They needed a certain number of female children from African American single family homes making $100,000 a year. They were. It was the epitome of real affirmative action to be able to get into that school, because the slot had to be open. Now there is some room for legacies and that sort of thing. So if you're a graduate, generally you can get your child into the school. They make it not an exception, but they move you to the top of the stack.
That's
in
nice.
other words, yes. But the point being is it matches the demographics of the county. Well, that's very important to understand, because they're doing way better than Leon County Schools is doing with the exact same demographics.
Nope.
So you can't blame the demographics. Can't blame poverty. You can't blame all this other stuff, because there's kids that go to school there that, you know, that need, you know, free lunch.
Exactly.
And breakfast.
Yep.
As far as that goes. So
And
that's another issue that hasn't been brought to the forefront, I think. But that was one of the things that the committee was harping on.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
you know,
I was just thinking to myself that now if the committee took the best practices from Florida High and these other states, consolidated that and added it to a curriculum, then was pushed into the other public schools, that would be a worthy purpose of a CSC.
it's not the other states. It's the other lab schools in the state of Florida.
Exactly.
Now we have one lab school that is at the bottom.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, really, really at the bottom. But I think that's one of the reasons is there's no diversity in that lab school. So yeah, but they're at the bottom. But that's not the point. Let's do what Florida High does. Let's do what PK Young does in Gainesville at University of Florida. And frankly, I'm surprised that Alachua County set up a Children's Services Council back in 2018, because PK Young is at the University of Florida. So
right.
It's crazy stuff. And the CSC has no business plan. They have no plan. They have no budget. There's no accountability. You know, none of these things are there. I'm a retired commercial banker. If you would have come to me and said, I want to start a new business, I'm going to say, I need a budget. I need a business plan. I need to look at, you know, how successful you've been in your life up to this point. I need to know what you know about whatever this business is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I need to do, and I'm still probably going to tell you no.
And why can't we do that for Leon County? I hate to keep harping on the school board, but that's another thing too, is that, like, you know, I've had a couple conversations with people and they say, oh, well, the circumstances are out of the school board's hands. Oh, well, they can't do this and they can't do that. And it's like, no. You show the example of Florida High that has the same demographics as Leon County, doing it completely differently and in a lot better ways. And with the example of like a business, it's like a business, then we should be very upset that that business is being run so poorly right now. You know, like, if Rocky Hanna were to get like a letter grade, and especially if we are even to talk about like COVID handling, the fact that we're number like what, 5 out of all of the schools in Florida, he has a straight up F, and he should be fired, and we should not like continue. Like if he was the CEO of a company, the stockholders would fire him.
Well, he can be fired. He's an elected official, and all you have to do is vote him out the next time, or this time actually. And I think there's somebody that's running against him right now that's eminently qualified on paper. I don't know her, but certainly her resume looks pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it looks better to me than what Rocky's resume looked like. But we're not here to talk about Rocky necessarily, but understand that none of the CSC tax can go to the school system. They can't go for education into the school system.
Right.
But you have a good question. Why is it that third grade reading scores at Florida High are significantly higher than third grade reading schools in Leon County, or frankly in other counties?
Right.
So that's and Wakulla, by the way, ranks above us in third grade reading scores too. So all of those mullet fishermen, their third grade reading scores are higher than our sophisticated government employee county and University County.
Isn't
that amazing?
Like, aren't their schools more like diverse in terms of the population and the demographics? Isn't it a little bit more like mixed in than Tallahassee? Because I know in Tallahassee we're kind of like pretty segregated by class, which ends up meaning we're segregated by race too in our schools. But isn't Wakulla kind of like a whole?
Well, I think Wakulla has one high school, so everybody has to go to that high school.
Right.
I don't think the reason that Florida High does well is necessarily because of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think correlation is not necessarily causation in that aspect. The reason I brought up the diversity is to show that it's the same diversity in that school, which is a district in and of itself, as the remainder of Leon County School District. It's the same overall demographic.
Yeah.
And so there's no excuse for not getting your act together, and they're doing it at the school, so Leon County schools should be doing it as well. You don't need the Early Learning Coalition. Are you saying that the Early Learning Coalition is sending better VPK students to Florida High? Well, no, they're sending the same students everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere. And they do have a population because they're over in Southwood, so they do have a population that makes some money. But when I went there, my graduating class was like 85 students.
Mm-hmm.
Now a graduating class is probably around 150 or so. So living in Southwood does also get you into Florida High, but the other kids that are getting there are commuting there.
Right.
So what else can I tell you? I've got 8 minutes.
Well, here's my question. If we can't figure out exactly where the money is going for the CSC, could we imagine what the world would be like without it? What would we be losing if we eliminated it?
Nothing.
It doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't exist
there you
yet.
go. But it's taxing us. But we don't know where the money's going, and it doesn't have a budget, so we don't know what staff costs are going to be.
We have an idea.
Do we?
we have an idea.
For this moment in time, you're an economics major. Nothing is set in stone when it comes to budgets, right? Every year they seem
Well,
to increase a little year, a little more goes off the top.
yeah, there is no budget. Just for the record, I'm an economics graduate, not a
Graduate.
major.
Gotcha.
And they we're not currently being taxed. This whole thing is whether, we're putting it on the ballot to see if we're willing to be taxed on
Gotcha.
this.
Okay.
And yes, it would be the status quo. Now, is the status quo good? No, it's not. It's not good. It's not great. It's better than a lot. It's certainly better than a lot. There is room for improvement, and what we should be doing is looking to the smart folks.
That's right.
If we want to be smart, and looking to the school districts that are doing better than us, if we want to be better in school, looking to the counties that do better in the Florida Child Wellbeing Index than what we do, and understand what they do, research what they are doing, not where others are failing. We don't care where others. I mean, we care, but we don't care. It's not going to help us improve where we are.
That's right.
When you have a football team and you're ranked number 20, you don't go looking for an unranked football team to say, okay, well, what are you doing?
Right. Let's
What are you
recruit
doing
their
in football
kicker.
games? You look towards the teams that are in the top 5. What are they doing? That are doing that? And that's my whole perspective on this. We're looking in the wrong direction to be able to improve our children's services here in Leon County. We've got number one, we have to have an inventory. We have to have an inventory and know what we're spending money on. Then we have to make sure that we're not overlapping wherever we're spending money. If we're overlapping, if there's 2 organizations doing exactly the same thing, that means there's 2 administrations that tax dollars are paying for. Get rid of one of the organizations.
Yes, or merge them.
You just cut a bunch of administration in the organization.
We're talking, when you say the 150, you're just talking about city and county, like already governmental run organizations. You weren't including like non-for-profits and stuff in that, or? No.
It is non-profits as well. I mean, it's 150 organizations or agencies or whatever you want to call them that are serving children. And eliminate this fat. There can be fat in nonprofits. There always is.
There always is.
Eliminate fat. Eliminate the overlapping. Streamline what's going on, and certainly you'll tend to improve the process. Of course, one of the problems is you've got Leon County Schools, Leon County, City of Tallahassee, State of Florida, and the federal government. Okay, so all of those entities are saying, here's some money, but you can only do this or this with this money. Right. And because of the bureaucracy of all this, it additionally makes it even more difficult. But throwing more money at this is not the way to do it. And by the way, if the county wanted to bring $8 million additional to spend on children's services, there's enough money, according to Jerry Matlow, there's enough money, tax dollars in Leon County, to be able to cut the fat, to be able to create that $8 million a year to go to children's services. And what it is your county commissioners and your city commissioners are chicken. Yep. They're not willing to put their neck out and help children. And that's the bottom line. They're not willing to help children. And that's why they put it on the ballot.
Exactly. And, it's, and instead of like these politicians like the mayor and the sheriff, Walt McNeil and Rocky Hanna, instead of endorsing this, like, frankly, scammy board that isn't really going to be effective, why don't they put their money where their mouth is and actually stick their neck out for children? Like Rocky Hanna could his budget better. The sheriff could implement more programs where the police help with children. I mean, there used to be a lot more of those programs in Tallahassee with the sheriff's office, like where
There already is. The juvenile, hold on.
but there seems to have, like, there's less now, but there definitely used to be a lot more. Like, there used to be like reading book programs with the sheriffs. The sheriffs used to like live in the neighborhoods, and they would do basketball programs with the kids. And
You're
all
dreaming now.
things that would help.
Yeah.
And that they could spend, they could take their budgets and spend money that's already allocated to them to help the children, instead of just saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. You take care of it, taxpayer.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, I'm going to let you know, John Moyle, who dictated basically to the city and county who should sit on the committee. Okay. And we've got the documentation on that. He is the lobbyist for Palm Beach County's Children's Services Council. Okay. So he's the lobbyist. He also has done legal work for the Florida Association of Children's Services Councils. And so the assumption that can very easily be made is he stands to make money off of this by having another client.
Yep.
And so that kind of gives you an idea of where that goes as well. So yeah, we don't need another bureaucracy here in town that is unaccountable, where our tax dollars are going. We've got enough government corruption going on here, as evidenced by the FBI is still here and still investigating and is not done. But we've already got one of our first mayors is he's going to prison because of the things that he was doing. And,
is he? Like, when did that happen?
Well, he pled guilty.
Is he going?
He hasn't been sentenced yet, but I'm sure he will be.
Andrew?
He's a criminal.
Not Andrew.
He just
no.
hasn't been
Scott
sentenced.
Maddox.
Who?
Scott Maddox.
Oh, I thought you said mayor. Scott Maddox wasn't the mayor, was he? He was
he was one of our first mayors.
Wow.
He became a commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
City commissioner.
I didn't either. I love this.
Yeah. Welcome to Tallahassee.
Right. David, are you going to come back and talk to us more as this becomes more apparent and more important?
If you want, just tell everybody vote no.
Vote no.
You can always vote yes later. But if you vote yes now, you can't vote no for 12 years and $96 million later.
Wow.
Yeah. And real quick, the plan is to start it next year and start taxing it. And all they're going to do is put the administration together. Then the following year, they're going to disseminate about 20% of the money that they tax and build up a nest egg. And then the third year is when they would be looking to fund the entire tax. So yeah, they're building a nest egg for something, and you can't get rid of it. So
wow.
That money
you can't get rid of it without repercussions. So
exactly.
That's where we are.
Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us.
My pleasure.
And I appreciate you being here. I guess I'll just wrap up with, like everything David says, I definitely agree with. And,
I got to go, guys. Okay. So
bye,
David. Thank you for being here.
All right. Take care.
But yeah, Jason, like the biggest thing, that David, like for me with the Children's Services Council in general is, why do you think right now, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, a civil rights movement, and all of this change that is occurring, that establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans have all gotten together to decide to form a political bureaucratic board that's going to exist for the next 12 years?
It's just going to suck our money. That's all any of this is about, sucking our money.
Here's the thing is, why do you think they're doing that? And here's my thing is, I think that they know their parties are dying. Like, I think that these establishment Jeb Bush style Republicans and Democrats who like for the longest time have refused to be accountable to people and are only accountable to the people who pay the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's dying because the people aren't taking it anymore, you know.
That's right.
And you and I, like, we have some different political ideas than David does. We have a different letter next to our name than David does. But at the end of the day, we're all coming together to agree on the fact that no, this Children's Services Council is bureaucratic bullshit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
Well, it was an hour, and I still don't know where the money's going. And if you can't tell me where the money's going, I can't determine whether it's a worthwhile cause or not.
It's for the children, to put shoes on the children's feet. You know,
In what way, though? That's what does it disperse to the organizations, or is it an organization in and of itself? Does it give money to children, or does it give money to an organization that gives money to a child?
exactly. It gives money to the organization, and then it's up to the organization to give out that money. And like,
Okay.
you know, those organizations clearly haven't been doing the best of the jobs, or, you know, the counties and the like county and city organizations that already exist aren't doing their job. And it's just, for me, you know, it's like, I think voting yes, because here's the thing is, and this is what, you know, like I remember when I held that form, and, you know, Talithia Edwards, she told me that, and I agree to a certain extent, like I see where she's coming from, that I'm privileged to say, no, let's wait 2 years and not vote because children need shoes now. And my thing with that is like, yeah, children need shoes now. Children needed shoes now 2 years ago. Children need shoes now 5 years ago, a decade ago, tomorrow, yesterday. Poverty and inequity is systemic, and it's not something that's going to change unless we change the system.
That's
like
right.
The system that exists already has to be changed in order for us to see the real dynamic change that we want to see to help with poverty and to help with children. And so, me, a vote for children's services is to roll over on your back and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. Let's put this Band-Aid on the gushing water. You know that meme where the guy like puts tape on the thing that's about to like crack and explode, which is like what they're doing, you know? And it's, the system could be so different. And like, I didn't even think about it in that way. Like what David said about how, you know, the FSU school, it literally has the same demographics as Tallahassee. So you have Leon County, and then you have a mini Leon County that is doing millions and millions and millions of times better than the shit job that Rocky Hanna's doing.
Yeah.
That's on mismanagement. That's on, we don't know what Rocky Hanna's like, what his budget is or how the funds go, because there's no public record. I've emailed them, I've tried, and I've like called them, and they will not give me the information. And like, who knows what Rocky spends all that money on? Maybe boats.
Alert from system UI server.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
My computer.
That's all right. I got a maintenance guy waiting at my door.
We should end anyways. I guess my computer knew it. But thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jason.
No problem. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thanks, Sierra.